Hello.
Well, hello. How are
Well,
you?
hello.
Hello, hello, hello.
I
Oh,
am excited for today's topic because I
so
don't think there's anyone who can't relate to this. If you don't get imposter syndrome at some
yeah.
point as an author, are you really an author?
Yeah, are you really an honor? Did you really wake up today? I'm with you. I feel like it's one of those that I've had people even say to me, like, when will I feel imposter syndrome? Like, calm down. If you haven't felt it yet, just wait. You'll know when it
Sweet
happens.
summer child. You little
Here,
hopeful ray of sunshine.
let mommy hold you for a minute. It's okay, hon. It's okay. No, this one it's
Oh,
imposter syndrome. It's about second guessing ourselves when we go on social media, when we're posting, whether it's video, a static photo, or doing a live, whatever it
who am
is.
I to be talking about this? Yeah.
Exactly. Who am I to be doing it? Well, you are the perfect person to be talking about it because you're the person that's going to be talking about it. It's that
Mhm.
simple, but yet we want to cut ourselves off at the knees all the time when it comes to
And the
imposter
thing that
syndrome.
fascinates me about imposter syndrome is that there is no mountain you can climb to get away from it, you know? I was sure that if I was where I am now in my career, that I would not have imposter syndrome. Like I would not,
Right?
there was some like either numerical value or like achievement that you
Yes.
would get to and then go,
Yes.
no, I'm fine. Like
I'm fine.
surely, like Lee
It's like,
Bardugo and Colleen Hoover and like those they don't get imposter syndrome and they absolutely do. They all do. Everyone does.
there is no, like, there ain't no mountain high enough is like the perfect thing to talk about because
Yeah.
it's like, as you said that
Get you
too.
away from imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
The new lyrics.
I think about when I struggled with acne in my 20s and I kept going at some point, I'm going to be an adult and I'm not going to be dealing with it. And that's how I saw imposter syndrome at a certain point. Like at some point,
Yeah.
by the time I'm 50, and 50 has always been that number for me of like, that's going to be the point where I'm not going to get any more pimples. This thing won't happen. This other thing will happen. Definitely imposter syndrome was in that list of, I'm going to be in that place at that point. No, child. I have been 50 since September of last year, and I just had a zit go away the other day, and I still get imposter syndrome. Like it
Yeah.
still happens. And I actually have a message from a friend of mine who's a writer in LA that I was just leaving her a message about a book I turned in today where I was going, I'm in that place of the book where I'm almost done. I'm doing my revisions and re-editing things, but then I look at this thing that I have poured my heart and soul into for X amount of time, and I go, "Who am I to tell this story?
Yeah.
Why did I think I needed to write this?" And I start to question it before it goes to the editor. Like, but yeah, and I do it with my post. I will write a post, and then I'll sit and look at them sometimes and go, "Who am I to say that?
Oh my
Why
gosh.
do I think I need to be the one?"
I feel like we psych ourselves out so much with posting where we go, no, this post wasn't good enough. I didn't explain that clear enough. This idea isn't what it should be. Like I'm not, or like whatever it may be, like I'm not a creator that can make the like,
Yeah.
whatever it may be, like
Yeah.
lip syncs or silly videos. I can't dance, in whatever it may be, whatever that kind of limiting belief is, and we do it to ourselves constantly of like I can't do that, you
Yeah.
know.
I can't do that. And I think I had an acting coach years ago that she told us like it's never going to be enough no matter what. And I was in my 20s at that point. She's like, every time you get somewhere, you're going to wish that you had gotten to the next place. And you're always going to be
Yes.
thinking like, oh, okay, like this is maybe now it's the time that I'm going to feel better. No, it's not. No,
Mhm.
you're always going to have somebody in the back of your head, and it's yourself who's going to be that devil tapping on your shoulder, going, and you just got to get your angel to do some workouts so she can go and knock the devil, get off.
And I think
Go.
that's why it's so important to have like non-numerical whys to things, like reasons for doing things, both with authoring and social media, because when you say like, oh, well, when I sell this many copies or when I do this many things, then it will never be enough. You'll immediately up that number. Like you will never get to wherever that is. But if your goal is to like write stories that mean something to people, and you have someone message you once a year saying like how much they loved your book, then you've achieved that goal,
Yeah.
and that goal will stay the same forever. And it's the same with socials. I think when it's like, for me, it's like I want to make fun content, I want to connect with people, I want to like build this core base of people who really like love my books and want to keep showing up on social media to connect with me and read my stories. And that means that whether I have 1,000 followers or 10,000 followers, whether the video has 10 views or 100,000 views, it really doesn't matter as long as I'm achieving that.
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
feel like that is so important because I see so many people who go like, well, I should have 50,000 followers, I should have more videos with 1 million views. But it's like, are you achieving the things that you set out to achieve with social media? Because if you are, then it doesn't matter how many followers you have.
Yeah, because then you're just setting like that might be a good goalpost for you to set for yourself to try to reach for something. But if you're using that, I think to put as like on the weight of your worth,
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah,
that,
like if I can't figure out how to make a viral videos, like,
oh my
then I
God,
am not a social media influencer, or I'm not a good book talk or whatever it may be.
like,
You know,
no,
it's
that's
like
not
we all
me.
want our accounts to help us with like, converting to sales, of course, but so much of it is more than that too, of like building communities, growing your newsletter list, getting more super fans,
Yeah,
like all of those things. And if you're making content that will do those things, then you're making the right kind of content. It doesn't matter what kind of content it is.
exactly. Like just being able to approach something, I think, and look at it and turn off that negative voice, whatever that is, whatever you tangible thing you can put on that thing, because I'll admit that there are times that that voice comes into my head and it's like I'll just walk away from something for the moment if it starts to do that. 'Cause I'm like, all right, obviously you're here and I can't work while you are here talking to me. So I will come back to the
Yeah.
post, to the whatever I'm doing because it's too loud.
Yeah. All
But
the time. I have like it happens to me at least once a month where I have to like just like stop everything I'm doing, not post online, not write, just take a break from all
yeah,
the stuff and just like go. Like usually it ends up being like, because I'm number one input, like a very high input time for me where I just want to read a lot of books and watch a lot of shows and go on lots of walks and just kind of like think for a while. Um, but it's like it's a very delicate and like sensitive feeling where you just feel very vulnerable suddenly, and
yeah,
um and I feel like it continually pops up for all of us, but when you're able to like look at it and realize that's what it is and know that like, and I felt this way with most kind of like phases of my life, is that they're very cyclical. Like you have highs and lows, they come again and again. And when you're in those low points, knowing that like you are going to circle back up to a high point again, it makes it much easier to not try and, I think sometimes like fighting it is sometimes the worst thing you can do, and
yeah,
instead of just like allowing it to be and allowing it to exist and going, you know what, I'm not going to try and like show up and perform like I'm not feeling this way today. And instead, I'm just going to let it exist and let it be, and then know that it'll
exactly.
circle back around.
Yeah, I think definitely knowing it, because that's when you can spot it, it helps because then you can put a title on it. Okay, that's my imposter syndrome coming up. I'm having some self-doubt, I'm having some fear, I'm having some anxiety, whatever that is. And then now this is a low. This is just, I'm in a dip, but it's a roller coaster ride. You'll be doing the climbing back up again in no time. But
Yeah.
allowing yourself when you have those dips, like you do, like, all right, I'm in a dip right now, so I'm going to go take care of me and do self-care
Yeah.
because that's the thing I can control.
And, and it's so funny because in the moment, it really doesn't feel that way, and it's very hard to, like, think logically about it, but, like, I always have to, like, remind myself that, like, this isn't an emergency, Like, there's just this feeling of, like, I have to be here right now, or I have to, like, show up and make a goofy TikTok or something, like, right now, and it's like, "No, you don't. You don't. It's not none of this is an emergency," and, like, you can just stop and go take care of yourself. And but I have to actively remind myself of that, especially as somebody with anxiety, like it just kind of spirals out. And I feel like imposter syndrome and anxiety are like nice buddies that
Oh
just kind of work together,
100%.
really like mess with your head. And it can just make everything feel so heavy. And it's really hard for me sometimes to like pull myself out of that. I know logically that what I'm thinking isn't true. I know that like everybody doesn't hate me, and that like, everything I'm doing is awful and I will never succeed, and like all of these things that I like, those thought processes that just start happening regularly. But it's very hard to tell yourself otherwise in the moment.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I'll have to even just go as far as saying like, it's okay to think these things right now. Like, don't add onto your to-do list trying to like out logic these emotions. Instead, let's go down to the emotional level and deal with those feelings instead of trying to deal with the logic behind them.
Yes, no,
Yeah.
that's so important. Being able to just tell yourself, like, I know this shouldn't be happening, but it is. And just
Mhm.
stepping back and being able to watch it happen and kind of pay attention to that. Because it does, it passes. And once it passes, like it's I can't explain because it's just a feeling. Because I know I've gone
Mhm.
through those where it's like you just have to sit and do the things like
Yeah.
TV. That's usually when I'm more curled up with Bravo.
It's
Like, what
always
can
at the worst time too, when there's like a deadline coming up or a promo happening or something that you want to
always?
be. I want to be have my brain working. I want to be on fire. I want to feel good about myself, and it's just not happening. And it's like
Yes.
it's the worst. It's the worst when you can't change that. But like then a week later, you're gonna be like, I'm writing all these words, I'm doing all these things. I had all these people tell me these things, and I actually believed it because I'm in a good place right now,
Yes.
and it's like all of that stuff, and you will hit your stride again. And it's like capitalize on that time and
Mhm.
don't fault yourself for the time when you're not feeling that.
I think too, like, and reminding ourselves that we're enough. Because a lot of times I think we go out seeking external validation because we don't think we are. And and this
Mhm.
is where it comes to, I think, like having that support group, whether it's family or friends or a writer group or like our friend group that we have, that is such an important touchstone because I think I know for me with our writer friends, like it's that if I'm feeling any spinny outy, I will come into that group chat that we have because I know that I've got 3 other people that get it and hopefully are not in the same place that I am at the moment, that they can be like, oh, okay, here, there'll be some type of juicy goodness that comes from each different friend at a different time. And the same
Mhm.
with my husband or with my writing partner in LA. Like there are different things that I know I have set up for myself because if I have those moments that I'm starting to question what I'm doing, looking at myself as not enough, comparing myself to anything on my social media as my
Mhm.
self-worth, that's usually if I get to the third one, that's when I'm slapping myself in the face and going, no, we're not going to be this person.
It's so hard though, no matter how many times you hear it. It's like, don't use other people as a goalpost for your own self-worth, but it is so hard not to. And I think especially for like neurospicy people, like most of my life, I felt like I survived by trying to mimic those around me and judged like what was worthy of my attention and not based on what other people wanted, especially as a kid. And now seeing this in my kids of like, being like, oh, I guess I should want a pink room, or I should want these things. And like, this is what it means to be like successful at whatever my role is. So I'm going to look at these other people to inform me of what I want and how I should feel. And
Mhm.
so like once you're aware of that and once you get older, like that can really mess with your head because all of a sudden you're looking externally for the answers to how you're feeling
Yeah.
inside. And then when you start adding that with comparisonitis and like all of the people potentially succeeding around you, that can really just like mess with your head because you're going,
Yes.
well, I need to be that, I need to be this, I need to be this amalgamation of like 50 different people's success stories in order to feel successful myself.
Yeah.
Uh, and that will just kind of break you, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, as you're saying that too, I think about anybody that is high competition in their personality. So
Mm,
whether you just know you're competitive by nature, or if you've gone through Becca Syme's classes and coursework and you know that you have competitive in somewhere in your top 10 strengths, but especially
yeah.
top five, because that for me, I my top number three competition. So
Oof,
I
yeah.
am aware when I'm looking at things that if I start to get, I have to have the gut feeling moment when I'm looking at something where I almost get the excited rush that I think I'm missing out, for me to be
Right.
my
Yeah.
own fireman, where I'm like, get out the hose, put out that fire and step back, get a glass of water and think about what you're looking at. Because sometimes I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Because my competition wants to get in there and it's like, no, no, no,
Right.
you need to pull it
And
back.
then your competition is probably the one that's playing on your imposter syndrome too, where it's like, I see these other people doing
Doing
things,
this,
I
doing
want to
that.
compete with them. And then if I'm not doing that, then I'm like less than or don't count as much or I'm an imposter. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I know so many people that are just competitive by nature anyway, that they, you know, that I've even noticed them with certain like big promotions, or there are different like group promos people get involved with, that I've seen some big authors that have just gone, I know myself well enough that I know my competition enough that I'm going to say no to this because I
Mhm.
like all of you and I don't want to end up getting mad at everybody because I don't win. I'm like, that is so big as someone to be able to say with something, but that is someone who's self-aware. And I think that's the other thing, is being able to know with imposter syndrome, you have to be aware how you're feeling, how it's making you feel, but also
Mhm.
being self-aware enough to pull yourself out, or to know it's time to phone a friend. It's time to walk
Yeah.
away from the computer and
Mhm.
take your dog for a walk, take yourself for a walk, go out. If you don't live with another person, go to your local coffee shop and sit down and treat yourself and read a book. Have some time for yourself and remember all the things that are effing fantabulous about who you are, because that list is going to be way longer than imposter syndrome list.
And you know what's another good thing you can do that only we have the power to do
What's that?
is put it into a book. Like I,
Exactly. Sit down
I
and
feel
write
like
about
this
it.
is a unique author coping skill that only we can do. But like when you're just feeling like really low or really crappy about yourself, like put that into a character or
Yeah.
make a character feel that way. Like
Yes.
and it just kind of frees you of that feeling because you can just kind of like give it to someone else.
Yeah, but that's, and where your journaling comes in with that too. And we were talking about journaling, like pull that journal out, write about how you're feeling, or make it do the same thing about a character. Look at it as like as a third party looking at something, but journal about it. Get it out of you, so it's
Yeah.
not festering. Because I think that's the thing, is we hold it in so much. Because again, you know, I'm 40. I shouldn't be feeling this because I'm also in I'm a mid-list author. I shouldn't have imposter syndrome. Yeah, you should. Because we all
Yeah.
do, and we're all gonna fight it, and it's okay.
I just like it tickles me to know that there's some of the most
Tickle,
famous
tickle.
and well-known authors of all time are just like so many of them when they start writing the next book go like, do I know how to write a book? Who am I
Yeah,
to, you know, it's like you're Stephen King. What do you
yeah.
mean? Like, you know, it's like
Yeah, like where
you're
did
Dan
you
Brown or
you feel
whoever, you
that
know.
way? Because I knew,
Yeah.
like me, yeah, every time. And I, because that was my every time moment with this last one, was realizing like I'm in that place that I always get to, and it's right here. It is
Mhm.
in revision, it is right before the editor, and that I question, who am I to do this?
Yeah.
This isn't, it's crap, it's horrible. And then
Yes.
I get
Always.
Always.
That's part of the writing process. I feel like for me,
Really?
and then you get to first the first draft, and then you revise, and then you hate it.
I hate you.
It's part of the recipe that's baked into the book.
I'm in
And
the
then
place where I
my
love.
strategy is always I hot potato it over to someone else to read, like a beta reader or a critique partner, and then have them get someone that I'm not actually looking for heaps of feedback on, just someone who's more cheerleading before it even goes to developmental edit, but just someone who just holds on to it for a while, that I feel like is doing something productive with it, so that I can kind of step away,
free that part of your brain
back, and I'm like, oh, actually this is a pretty good story. It's just you need
who
that.
put this line in here? Is that me?
I always tell people, because I meet so many authors, especially if it's their first book, who are I hate it, and I don't know, and I'm like, this is, first of all, this is normal, but it's also expected. And I always tell them, if you pick your favorite movie, right? And then you watch it multiple times a day, every day for a week, you're going to hate that movie by the end. It could be the best movie in the entire world, but if you have to be that close to it, watching every scene, picking apart the clothing and the set and the language, by the end of it, it's going to be the worst thing ever to you. And it's it doesn't actually mean it was a bad movie. It just means that you're so close to it now that you need to step away and forget all of those details, so that you can come back to it and appreciate it, that it's a good movie again.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, that is
imposter syndrome.
Pretty much, that's imposter syndrome, you guys. That is what it is. And I think we would love to know if you have ever had imposter syndrome and you're listening to this or watching it on YouTube. Tell us about it in the comments. Just let us know if you have, and if you dealt with it, how you dealt with it, because especially if it was one of the ways that we didn't talk about, or if you do have some special treat or routine that you do for yourself, tell us about it, because
how do you get yourself out of that? Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool. All right. Well, I think this is the last episode for Mental Health March.
It is. This is it. And should we announce what our April theme is going to be, since this is the last one?
Should. I think it'd be fun.
Exciting. Do you want to announce it?
Okay. This is a very me topic, and I'm super excited.
It is very exciting.
April is going to be all about engagement tips and tricks, and all of the techniques that you're probably already watching on all of the most engaging videos. We're going to break them down for you, talk about the different engagement tropes and kind of archetypes that happen. And we've got some funny things coming up. So I'm very excited.
That'll be awesome. That'll be so awesome. We're hoping to have a special guest this month, so fingers crossed. If not, we are aiming for one for May, you guys. But definitely, I think April, having the engagement tips and tricks, it is something that will never get old to me, because I think all of us can always pick up something new in that conversation. A different way to look at things, a different perspective, something that you can be using.
And they always work across whatever future social will pop up. It plays onto our very primitive brain.
It does. Yay! So make sure you guys come back and check us out for those. And also, if you want to know more, we're over on Patreon, Sustainable Socials, but we have a Discord group. You can come in at I think it is at our $5 tier, and you get access to a community where you can come in and talk about that imposter syndrome. And you've got a bunch of people that are right there with their hands open wide, ready to help you out. So we're always there.
Yes.
Yay.
All right. Well, we will talk to you next week.